Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited you are here. I have such a treat. You guys, I'm so excited about this. This was like such a crazy little situation that happened, but I have with me Randy Spelling. Say hi, Randy.
Hi. Hi.
And you might know him because he's an amazing life coach. First of all, I've been on his website and I'm like, this guy and I might be related somewhere in the spiritual realm because we talk about the exact same thing. But he also came from a really, really amazing family that have done great things in television and media and Hollywood. And I was watching one of his dad's shows, which was very healing to my heart. And at the end, they kept talking about Aaron Spelling, which most of you for sure know who I'm talking about. And I love researching people. And so I was just looking around, seeing what he did online. And I was like, oh, Tori Spelling's dad. Okay, I totally know who she is. Oh, and he has a son, Randy. I'm like, oh, I wonder what he does, you know? And so I look him up on Instagram and he's on there talking about all things like personal development, self-development, connecting to yourself. And I'm like, this guy, I'm like, I have to ask him if he'll be on the podcast. And I thought, long shot, I'm such a nobody, you know what I mean? And so I message him. He's so kind, comes back. He's like, I'd love to. And I'm just so honored to have you, Randy. Thank you so much for coming on. You're so kind.
Of course. Yeah, it's good to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We've got to talk offline a little bit, but I'd love for you to share with the audience just a little bit of your journey on how you got to where you are and kind of those ditches we were talking about that we all fall into in life.
Oh, those ditches. Yes. So maybe I'll reverse engineer this. I am a life coach by trade. I've been doing this for 15 years. And really, people say, well, what exactly is that? What do you do? In a nutshell, I help people love all parts of their lives. And that could be various things, from better communication with their partners, with their kids, learning how to be present, how to take a lot of these personal development, self-help concepts that we hear, even in religions, right? It's like forgiveness, love yourself, self-care, all of these things that sound good in theory, but can actually be quite challenging to do. So that's what interested me the most. It's also what I needed. And I came to this from a very sort of backwards route. It wasn't my background. I was an actor. I grew up in Hollywood and to a Hollywood family. As you said, my dad was Aaron Spelling, my sister Tori, who's an actress, and I was just sort of in this wild and crazy world called Hollywood, and it was hard for me to find my place, who I was. I always felt in a way that I was trying to fit into my dad's shoes. My sister was very clear from early on what she wanted to do. She was a performer. She wanted to act. She was in plays. She was in school, going out to auditions. I didn't feel like that. I was more reserved, quiet, shy, sensitive. I could really feel everyone's emotions, energy around me. And I didn't know how to interpret that. It was very overwhelming at times. And so, I never went into the business until I was a teenager, and the show Beverly Hills 90210 was really popular at the time. I mean, it was basically a phenomenon in the 90s. And I remember this one moment, and I've told this story so many times, but it was this one defining moment for me where we were on a family vacation in Las Vegas. My dad didn't fly, so that's why we took a family vacation to Las Vegas every year. And we were in Caesar's Palace Forum shops, and we were walking through, and they saw Tori and they saw my dad, and 90210 was huge, and they started getting mobbed, and there was security. And I sat back and I watched people freak out, shake, cry, my dad would give them a hug, or Tori would give them a hug, and it changed their day. And of course, the part of me that didn't feel special, that didn't feel enough, I zeroed in on, oh, if I do that, I'll cover a void. I'll fill a void that I'm feeling in here. In retrospect, what also was happening is I thought it was so powerful to connect with people in that way that otherwise would have passed each other and never said a word. And now they can connect. There's an energy exchange. There's words that are exchanged. They go, oh my gosh, they're so nice. Or I got this. Wow. And who knows, like that one moment could have changed their day or their week or their month or their year.
Mhm.
And so I think I wanted that too. And that's when I talked to my parents. I said, I think I want to act. I went into acting classes and, and then became an actor for about 10 plus years.
Oh, wow.
I ventured into the music business within that. And really what I was doing was just trying to find myself. And the line kept moving. Okay, I'll feel good about myself and be successful when I go from TV to movies. And then I did my first feature film. Then I thought, well, I don't feel any different.
Mhm.
You know what? I'm going to take my fate into my own hands, do music business because I want to put out positive, conscious stuff in the world through music. And I got my office and I put my feet up on the desk and I thought, okay, I'm an executive now, whatever that means.
Exactly.
And I didn't feel any different.
Mhm.
And then I just kept chasing and chasing. And I also, at the same time, kept filling myself with substances, alcohol and drugs, trying to find what would make me feel better. And I just got to this place where I was going downhill fast. A lot of not so great things happened.
I get it.
I became wrapped up in addiction, couldn't stop. And finally, when my dad passed away in 2006, a few weeks after, I just fell to the floor one night and I said, whoever can hear me, please, I don't want to do this anymore because I feel that I'm here for more. I do. I feel this purpose that I'm here to make an impact and help people, but I don't know what that is. Right. I don't know if it's acting or music. I just don't know, but I don't know if it's my mission to be here. Help me out,
Yeah.
show me the way, because I don't know. And after that, a couple weeks later, I checked myself into rehab. I got clean. And then was the hard work of
Right.
finding who I was, why I was doing the behaviors that I was doing, how to make myself happy, and how I wanted to show up in the world.
So good. It's so good. It honestly reminds me of my story, but flipped on its head. Like I didn't have the exact same like story you had, but similar thing. Like I was, you know, trying to find myself and I couldn't find myself. And, I tried all the things, I tried all the things that were supposed to make me feel better.
Right.
And I couldn't find them. And I would drink to cover up like, my insecurities. And then similar, at this one moment was just like, what's going on? And then had to start the hard work. It's
Yeah.
like you wish like that one moment was like, and everything's great, like in the movies, but that is not how it happens. And so I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about like that inner work. Like, what does that look like? Even when you're coaching someone or something, like how are you helping them to, this season of my podcast is about the inner critic. So the way I define the inner critic is really like our own pain that like life is sometimes difficult. So our own pain that kind of connects with like lies that we believe in our heads, and you might call them patterns or things. That's kind of how I define the inner critic, but how would you define it? Because I've seen you talk about it on your Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, I would say, the inner critic is the voice inside that screams at you, that pushes you, that berates you, that tells you something different than who you really are.
Hmm.
It feeds you lies, but it's based on something. I think the inner critic is based on partially what we grew up around. This isn't to make any family or parents or siblings bad.
No.
But a lot of times when I'm working with people, what I hear is they'll say something that's not even, not only is it not true, it's not them.
Interesting.
Someone said this and
Hmm.
said it again and said it again. And all of a sudden they took that and it went right in and it got installed basically as a program that runs. So
Mm.
now different relationships, different job opportunities, whatever's coming up, they're struggling with, that program is running, but it's kind of like trying to stream when you're on a 26-year-old plus computer. It's not going to work. It's going to glitch. So what people find is they're like, I'm struggling, I'm glitching. That's where
Mhm.
we need to go in and update the program and look at what are you saying to yourself and
Yeah.
really get clear what's going on inside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. And I think for me, I didn't want to sit by myself and allow those thoughts to come up to the surface. As soon I used to be someone who always had to have a TV on because I didn't want to be by myself. Now I am a high extrovert, but it was almost like I didn't want to sit and like hear the chaos in my brain. But once I started to really get into, just silence, silence and solitude, I started to like see those little, or, you kind of experience those little thoughts coming up and you're like, oh, there's a lot going on in there. You know what I mean? Like I struggled pretty bad with fear, and which was like a core issue. And I did not know, I didn't think I had any fears. I was taking this class one time and they're like, what are your fears? And I was like, I don't have any fears. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh no, I my whole life is led by fear, my
Yeah.
whole life. But because it was kind of a natural operating system, I didn't even know it was fear. Like I thought it was just how life was. It was normal. And then when I looked up the word worry in the dictionary, this is years ago when I wrote my book, I found a definition for it that it says to torment, to tear at the throat. Like the word worry in the original language is to torment and to tear at the throat. And I thought, well, that's not great, and I kind of would say like I worry about you means I love you. And so
Interesting.
isn't that interesting that I thought like, oh, I worry about you, that means I care about you, that means I love you. When I realized that the word worry means to torment, to tear at the throat, I was like, that's not love.
For yourself or the other person, right?
This is not love. So I think it's like for me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but like, and I know you're really into meditation, and I actually do meditation too. Um, it's like, sitting, I often will sit with the Lord and just, but like in silence, and I'll hear my thoughts come up and I'm like, what am I really thinking about? What am
Mm.
I really saying to myself? And what kind of thoughts and beliefs do I need to shift so that I can, like you said, walk in a better way? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how being in solitude and silence really kind of helps that.
Yeah, silence is huge. What is that old
Golden,
silence is golden?
I think. I don't know.
But it really is. I mean, this is why you know meditation has really taken off, is because there's something there that when we, and the world is so busy right now, it's so fast paced, there's so much stimuli coming at us all day long that, you know, even going outside in nature, taking a slow walk, just quieting the buzz and the hum enough. You said this too. I had to have the TV on. I didn't like to sit with what was there. I didn't want that to come up. And I think that is the the fear of quietude, of
Mm.
solitude, right? People don't realize that they're running from that, but we can all keep ourselves busy and run at this frantic pace so we don't have to meet what's inside, what we're running from, what we're holding, what we cover up by too much alcohol or drugs or too much cell phone time and scrolling or Netflix binging or whatever else, you name it, because sitting and feeling that is uncomfortable. But if you allow that to come up, then you get to meet and re-examine and say, hey, who are you? How long have you been there? Are you on my team? Are you trying to keep me safe?
Mhm.
What's going on? And what I like to do with people is I sometimes will say, use a different voice.
Mm,
Give
mm,
that inner critic a flamboyant, crazy, wild voice, different than yours.
mm,
So you can start to identify that voice, that program from you.
mm.
Because the problem is we identify
Sounds
with
like
the
us.
inner critic. We think that that is us. There is
Yep.
no separation. The moment that you become aware of it and go, oh my gosh, I'm saying these crazy things to myself in my head, that's not you saying them. You've
Yeah.
now become aware and you're seeing it from a distance. That
Yeah.
helps to sort of create some distance between those thoughts and who you really are.
Yep. That's exactly what I've learned myself. It's exactly what I've learned. And, I often talk to Christians, and I'm a Christian myself. And so, in the Bible, it talks about we all have this enemy of our soul. And he's called the father of lies. Like in the Bible, it says the father of lies is the enemy of our soul, or the enemy of our soul. And so that kind of led me to believe like that, yes, like pain definitely causes this inner critic, but there's also this other like spiritual force that does not like us. According to my belief, God loves everyone. He loves us, we're his children, and the enemy hates everyone God loves. And so he hates all of us, he's not choosy about it, and he, in my belief, he can't destroy us, right? Like he can't like cause something bad to happen, but he can help us destroy ourselves with these thoughts in our head.
Mm.
And it's just been revolutionary for me, and it's exactly what you're saying. It's been revolutionary for me to be like, oh, okay, these mean thoughts in my head are not me. Or they're old pain or whatever, but they're not actually me. They sound like me, but they're not me, and then kind of like putting them in buckets, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this is a lie. This is the truth. Oh, this is some pain, might need some therapy. You know what I mean? Like, or a life coach.
Yeah.
Like, well, I love therapy and life coaches. So, that's kind of the way I've learned it. So I love that we're basically talking about the same thing. That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
that's amazing. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about, like, you and I talked about learning to love ourselves, which can be kind of, people can get a little scared of this sometimes, they think it's bad, but tell us how you teach people to do that, if you don't mind, or maybe
Yeah.
you're
Now,
doing
did
it.
you say people think that this is bad to love themselves?
Yes.
Really? That's a thing?
Do you not run into this at all?
No.
Really?
Well, we might be languaging it different. So let me say, I find that people, when they look at self-care
Hmm.
specifically, they're like, but isn't that selfish?
Yes.
Isn't it selfish of me? I mean, I think, unless I'm totally missing the mark here, I think the idea of loving oneself, for most, right? Not everyone, general brushstroke,
Right.
there's a resonance with, of course, right? It's good to love oneself. I mean, better than hating yourself, right?
I used to hate myself.
Right. But I mean, if someone's going to choose, like, hey, under course one is loving yourself, under course two is hating yourself, which one do you want? Right. We're usually going to pick the love.
Sure.
But when it comes to self care, generations past kind of beat into the younger generation, whether it's being seen and not heard, whether it's you do what you need to do in this family. There was not a lot of room to go, well, I'm taking care of myself right now. I'll be there in 10 minutes.
Right.
What? No way.
No.
And then if that did happen, they would be called horrible names. You're completely selfish. This isn't what we do. So that wasn't as allowed. Now, self-care is a hot topic, and so many people and companies are talking about self-care and mindfulness and all of these things that I think that word selfish gets
Mm.
mixed into self-care.
Yep.
So how do we detach from that to make it acceptable? Here's what I see. I could just share with you what I see, having done this for 15 years working with clients.
Love it.
When people care for themselves more,
Mhm.
they are more vibrant. They're
Mm.
happier. Their heart is more open. They're more giving, even though they may say no to coming to dinner on Friday night because they need a night of rest.
Mhm.
So people get shaken and they go, oh my gosh, Sally's changing. I don't know, she's, declining invitations and, she's working with someone. I don't know what Sally's doing, but, it shakes the mobile a little bit and the structure that people are used to. But the truth is Sally is learning a huge amount of value for herself, that it's okay to care for self.
Yep.
And I look at it like this. What do we want to teach our children?
Mhm.
Because I'll speak for myself. I want my children to go out in the world and know that it's okay to say no, not
Yes.
just show up or to do things because anyone and everyone is asking.
Mhm.
And I think there's a big difference between having grace, having empathy, having understanding and compassion, and taking that into consideration while making a decision for self. Hey, do I want to do this? Is this the best situation for me? Or is there something different? And if people just do what's right for other people, then the message that you're sending is it's okay to be unhappy. It's more important for me to do everything else for other people. And then you have a world where a lot of people are running around unhappy, unfulfilled, unsatisfied in a consumeristic, climate, buying things because what they're taught and told is that is going to make you feel better, when in essence they're lacking care for themselves and not knowing how to find that.
That is so good. That is so good, Randy. I totally agree with you. And that's been my experience. Like I did not understand what boundaries were.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I've read lots of books now and I'm like, oh, this is a thing, and it's like, and I am a more loving person now, because I love myself. Like I couldn't, like I wanted love from the outside. You talked about this in a couple of your interviews I watched, but like and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I believe we're all made for love, and so I wanted love, but I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to care for myself. So I was like looking for all the people to love me. You know what I mean? And so I would love people so that they would love me back, which was like sort of healthy, but pretty codependent. And then I had to learn to, in my life, I had to learn to like receive God's love so that I could learn to love myself. I know everyone's different, but and as I began to love myself and care for myself, I really genuinely like could love and care for other people in this like really powerful way. It just was so, but the transformation was messy. It was like really like, oh, I mean, it was like, because I don't know why. I don't know why it's messy like that, but it just was very like, yeah, it was just very messy. Like I felt guilty. I felt shameful. I felt, like, you're a bad Christian or you're a bad
I think it's messy because we bump up against every paradigm that we've been taught and told, and asking, wait, can I grow through this? Can I find my way? And so you're bumping up against barrier. Like, ow. I'm feeling bruised. But that's purposeful,
Mm,
because then you get to expand your definitions. You get
mm,
to open up, and you get to look at things differently. And like you said, the more you love yourself, the more that you have love for other people. And
mm,
one thing I want to say, because there's a huge distinction, loving yourself is not the same as being self-indulgent.
mm,
Just people who, when I'm saying love themselves, having self-love, it doesn't mean that you sit there and you talk about yourself the whole time and you just suck the energy out of a room. It means that you care for yourself, that you treat yourself well, that you give yourself a break, some ease, right? And you don't continue to keep beating yourself up or berate yourself for something that you didn't do or didn't do well or didn't do perfectly.
yep.
It's the
Yep.
more that you can do that, the more that your heart literally expands. I really think that the heart has the capacity to grow its capacity in how much love it can hold.
Mm,
And I learned this by having kids, because I had a dog. It's like, oh my gosh, I love my dog so much. Am I going to love my child? Well, of course I'm going to love my child. That was a given, right? Then
sure.
I had my first daughter, and I was nervous. I said to my wife, I said, I'm really nervous. What if I don't love our
Mm,
second daughter as much as my first? I don't know how it's possible. I'm just not sure. And I heard that that was silly, but I
yeah.
wanted to say the fear out loud.
Mhm.
And then when my second daughter came, it was, my heart literally expanded, and I was able to hold more love. So I
Mm,
don't know about you, but if you give me a vessel of water, you say, hey, we're so thirsty, right? We've been in the desert for 3 days, and you give me a vessel of water this big, but that's it. It's fixed. There's no way for it to get bigger. That's as much water as it can hold. Or you
mm,
say, look, if you're able to love yourself more and work on this and move through your boundaries and your fears and work on, some things that you can do, then that it's like handing someone a huge cup and saying, wait, but it gets bigger and it gets bigger. And actually, the water that's poured, it can hold more and more water. Now, it's not just us drinking, but the neighbor comes to drink. And then the people in the community come to drink. And then it's a pond to drink. And then actually, it can quench, the whole city and ripple out.
yep. That's a beautiful picture. I love that. And I've heard that too, that people will say that, like, I don't know if I can love, my first, you hear that a lot actually, and people always say God, well, in my world, they're like, God expands your heart, or whatnot. And so I just think that's so true. And that's so powerful. And, I love the definition of like, maybe that's what trips people up in my world. It's like, self-love is selfish, and it's like, but maybe it's self-care, like it's caring for yourself. Like you said, it's like being kind to yourself. Like I had like this mean voice, especially around romantic love. There's just this mean voice, like, you're not pretty enough, you're not this enough, da, 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 and my mother or father never said that to me. So it didn't come from them, but it came from somewhere. And so like, it's been a long journey in that direction for me. But as I've learned to like things about myself that were maybe I didn't like about myself for whatever reason, I've definitely like been more open to like love, like romantic love. But I had to learn to like myself, but because in my mind I'm like, if I'm like, no one's gonna like me, I don't even like me. I couldn't see why someone else would like me because I didn't like me.
Yeah.
And I know that's very specific in the romantic love, kind of thing, but that is a lot about what I write about and talk about. And I know you do more general stuff, but
No, it tracks. It's all that relationships are relationships,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's just like really fascinating. But I just love talking to you. I feel like we are like on the same page. I was reading your website and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what I think. So it's so powerful. Well, do you have anything else you want to share with us? I'm just so honored you'd come on. I knew what you carried was so powerful and just so it's just fun for me to like bring like someone who's kind of got an entertainment background, because that just seems to be the people I love to talk to, and personal development. I'm like, this is so beautiful. I love this. So is there anything else you wanted to share with us or?
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think would be valuable for
Yeah,
the people who tune into this?
you know, I think a lot of creative people do listen to this. A lot of people that feel called maybe to Hollywood, or love storytelling, or find that storytelling is a way to really heal people, and it has done a lot of healing for me. So I'm one of those people, to be honest. Um,
So let's talk about storytelling,
let's talk about it.
because there's something very powerful about this outer storytelling. We hear someone else tell a story, we see it in media, movies, television, and we go, wow, that was brilliant storytelling. That documentary was great. But we're all storytellers.
Mhm.
Every single one of us tells stories every single day. So in terms of relationships, something that I see a lot with couples, and I do, I've done quite a bit of couples work, is what's the story that we're telling ourselves? Because it's very interesting when people are a little bit disconnected and feeling that. When I ask one partner and I ask the other, I say, so around this, what's the story that you're telling yourself right now? And they'll think about it and they'll say, well, they never do this. And so because they never do it, then and I'll say, okay. And it's really interesting to watch the other witness that, and then asking the other, and then they're telling themselves a story, a narrative that they have based on usually something that's happened in the past. Because if something's happening in present time, we're present. We're not
Yeah.
creating a story around it. The only time a story gets created is pulling up things from the past.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting when we're telling stories, just like through the ages, we're telling stories about the past.
Wow.
Right? So the story that you're telling yourself in your mind, which is the inner critic, same thing. I'm not enough of this. I'm not enough of that. I can never, I'm the one who's not lucky. That's a story that
Mhm.
you're telling yourself. So what I would urge to everyone listening is you're the writer. Now, you might have some help, right? With some very good people in the writing room, but it's coming through you. You're the one that holds the pen. How's that? You get to write or rewrite
Mm.
or create the next chapter, but you hold that power. So if you don't like the story that you've been hearing, you don't like the story that you've been telling yourself, let the past go. Of course, that sometimes takes a little bit of work. I know that's easy to just say, but the idea, the concept at least, is let the past go so you're able to write a new story based on where you're at now. Because almost always, when we have stories about ourselves, when the inner critic is coming up, it's not you right now at the age you're at right now, where you're at in life. That's old.
Yep.
So you have to update, write the
Wow.
story differently.
You have to update. I love that. Because if you don't update, like when you don't update your phone, it breaks down.
Right.
Or the computer, like
Doesn't work.
it doesn't work. It slows down, it gets stuck. So that's so great. That's
And think about it like that, just using your analogy, right? Would you take the phone
right.
and go, what's wrong with you? You suck. What? I can't believe you never do this. You're not this enough or that enough. You would look and go, oh, that's 15.1. I'm on 3.2. Maybe it's time I get a new version.
It's so good. But sometimes I do yell at the phone if I'm really honest with
I
you.
know, I do too.
And then I'm like, oh, I need to do a little updating. So,
Right?
oh, I love that. That's such a sweet way of saying it because we can beat ourselves up and be like, I can't believe you haven't done this, but it's just like, like just a little updating over here. So,
Yeah. Little
yeah,
updating.
that's amazing. That's so fun. It's so true. What about if I can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
I want to honor your time.
Yeah.
Um, like when it comes to I just love how you talked about, when you guys were in Las Vegas and you saw all these people like just like, oh, so excited to see your father and your sister. And, that made you interested. Well, I want to help people like that. Or, in your mind, it sounded like you were like, oh, wow, like they really impact people. And was that what you were saying? Like they really impact people and I want to have that or
Yeah, I was saying that, and again, I didn't realize this at the time. I wasn't conscious of this,
sure.
but the ability to connect to people that otherwise wouldn't connect.
Oh, I see.
They would pass. But
Yeah.
because of being recognized,
Hmm.
there is a certain power in what do you do with that?
Hmm.
What can you impart to someone, right? How can you use that? And I think that stuck out to me as something very powerful.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. So again, some of the people that listen to this podcast, like they're people that want to impact people through art and through entertainment. Just grow, you have just such a neat, like a very distinct and unique upbringing that most of us didn't have. And I mean, are there any things like any things you say, because your dad really, I mean, the shows he wrote were so, or not wrote, but produce. Look, I don't know a ton about Hollywood, but, but the thing, I really don't. It's kind of
He
funny.
did both. He wrote, he produced.
Oh yeah, okay, that's awesome. But like, they really impacted people, and I know a lot of people that want to do the same. They want to do that, but do you have any like wisdom, advice, just from what you saw, what you experienced, that like are things that they should do and that maybe like can be like pitfalls in specifically in the Hollywood land?
Yeah. So number one, the inner critics is don't listen. Find a way. Work with someone.
Mm,
Get some books. Whatever will work and get you support
mm,
from not listening. Because one of my personal biggest inner critics was that it would just stop me. They would stop me from moving forward with the things that I wanted to move forward with, out
mm.
of fear or rejection, or how will people look at me, or how am I going to be perceived. And then you talk to someone at the end of life and they have all these regrets.
Mm.
So I would say first and foremost, work with your inner critics. I write, you write. I know a lot of writers. It's the biggest thing that happens. There's writer's block. What's really going on there? Inner critics. You have to meet yourself in the silence of writing, and then you write and you go, is this good enough? Is anyone going to read this? Is this just trash? Do I rip up the page? I can't do this. I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to complete this. I mean, it's you
Okay.
know what show.
It is.
So first and foremost is understand that that's a part of what's going on. Work with it, use it to update yourself, like we've been talking about.
Mhm.
Um, Number two, specifically in Hollywood, is really clarify what you want.
Mm.
Um, I do meet a lot of people who they they want to be in Hollywood in some form or fashion, but they're not 100% clear on what they want. They think that they want to be a writer on a show or be an actor or actress, but really what they want
Mm.
is the camaraderie.
Mm.
They want to be recognized, or they want fame. And I think it's really important. It's a big difference. Someone who wants fame and wants to be famous versus someone who has this exuding passion for acting, let's
Mm.
just say, or writing, that they are a writer or an act. They study their craft. They love it. They'll do whatever it takes because It's like the artist who has to paint.
Yeah.
Huge difference. And if one of those chases the other, it doesn't really work. So I think it's really important to be very crystal clear on what it is you want. And then, by the way, there are other people who I talk to all the time, and they'll say, well, I'm not a writer per se. I mean, I wrote back in the day, or I did this, or, I like painting. Am I an artist? Well, they're defining artist as someone who is making 100% of their living and is recognized and famous for doing what they do. You and I know plenty of artists who are not making a full-on living or getting wild success. But if that's a part of you, if that creative medium is a part of you that you love, do it because you love it. You don't even have to necessarily make a living at it at first, but do it anyway, not because it leads to the money. Do it because it's part of your soul wanting to express itself through you, and you are the conduit that brings that out.
So powerful. It's so powerful. And it's my story. So I'm like, yes and amen. He's right.
Maybe that's why it's coming up.
I know, it's so special. Well, Randy, tell us how we can like get in touch with you, work with you if people want to. Like, would just love to hear a little bit more about that before I let you go.
Sure. Yeah. My website, randyspelling.com. I have different offerings on there that you can read about. And I have this new program that I'm doing because I've been fascinated about this idea of loving your life. And I wasn't always fascinated by this. I mean, I was happy in my life.
Sure.
But I started to get the feedback of clients having these, I feel so good. I'm skipping down the street. I just love who I am. I love my life. And I started thinking, is it possible? Is this possible for me? Then I had to go, well, what do I want to change? What has to change in order for me to do that? And then it led me to a decision. I'm going to move these things around and change what I can because I want that. I want what my clients are getting. I built the framework and I kind of put myself through that. Doesn't mean that my life is perfect. It doesn't mean that I don't deal with hard things.
Of course.
But because I, for the most part, love who I am.
Sure.
And I love my life. I can meet those things so much easier. And, various times throughout the week, I'm saying, gosh, I'm so grateful. I love my life. And so I wanted that for people. So I built out a system in order to help people get that. It's really a roadmap to loving their life. Yeah. And that's something that I'm doing lately that I'm passionate about.
That's so beautiful. Well, I'm a big fan of love as well. So I love that you're doing that. And guys, I'll put his links in the show notes. So if you want to get in touch with him, please do. Randy, I just want to give you a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on here and chatting. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, good. That's always my main goal is fun. So I love that. Well, guys, we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Randy. We will talk to you soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.